Welcome, everyone. Thanks to Michelle for that wonderful music, as always. Always seems to strike the perfect chord for wherever we are and whatever we're doing here. So love seeing where you're all tuning in from today. And I just want to let you know we have an amazing guest here, Zeina Azzam, Palestinian American poet, who is a wonderful poet, a wonderful person, and she's the author of the chapbook Bena Bena, In Between, which is actually published by the Poetry Box, a wonderful publisher. And Sean, who is one of the publishers, is actually a member of our community here. And then her latest book is Some Things Never Leave You, which is from Tiger Bark Press, fresh off the presses, apparently, too. And so she's here to talk to us just for a little while about that new book, share some poems, and just share some conversation. And then we'll say goodbye to Zeina and do some writing together in the second half, as usual. So, welcome, Zeina. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm really delighted to be here.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure you have a full time with launching your new book, and you're also still poet laureate of Alexandria, Virginia. Is that right?
I am. It's actually it's actually a 3-year term, and
Oh,
so I'm just a year and 4 months into it. So I've got a little bit of time left, and so I'll be it until April of 2025.
wonderful.
Mhm.
So great. Well,
It's
go ahead.
no, I was just going to say it's been great. I'm really so honored to be in this role.
Yeah. Well, I imagine it's such a great recognition. Like you get to represent this place that you call home in a very intimate way, and you get to share poetry from your soul, from your heart and soul, and with a wider audience maybe than poetry always reaches, because I know you get asked to speak at a lot of different kinds of events as part of that too.
I do. And I also, part of my mission is to encourage others to write as well, with workshops and all different kinds of things. So it's really great in many ways. It's great personally, it's great on a community level as well.
That's wonderful. Well, I usually like people to read a little poem to kind of get us into the soul space, because sometimes I get so caught up in conversation, especially if it's someone like you that I really want to talk to.
I
I
know.
mean, I really want to talk to everyone, I should say that. But I'm just especially excited today to delve into your poetry. So I don't know if there's a poem that's on the tip of your tongue today, um, or if there's one that's not calling to you. I'm always happy to prompt you.
I guess I feel a real peacefulness in this space. So I guess the poem I think about first is titled Peacefulness by the River. I live near the Potomac River in Alexandria, and it is just such a lovely area. It's such a lovely river to walk by, and I really walk there pretty much every day. It's a place to clear my head. It's a place to feel that peacefulness, and it's a place to let my eyes roam. So I guess that's the poem I think of at this moment. So I'll start with that. Peacefulness at the river. Each day, the river calls out to me. I make a pilgrimage of thanks at its ragged banks. Like a dervish about to whirl, I want to be the stone hurled into the water, waiting to disappear in a spiral with the divine. The waves beckon to follow their languid, evolving shapes. This repetition is a prayer to wind, moon, rain, receiving and giving, giving and receiving. All I need to do is be present at the river's edge. It will absorb any stories I bring of war and fear, impatience and loss. Left will be the sky's light blue of peacefulness, and the bright clarity of water.
Mm, that's so beautiful.
Thank you.
I love that. Yeah, just I love it when poets bring us into their sacred places. I feel like poets are so good at that. And almost every poet I meet has some sort of sacred space or place that's really special to them. So thank you for bringing us there with you, and such delicious sounds too. I mean, you're such a peaceful reader. I feel like, people often tell me like, "Oh, James, when you read, like I feel so calm."
Yeah.
I feel that from you, actually. I'm like, oh, my nervous system is settling down as I'm listening to Zen. So you brought us doubly into the scene of the river, and also just the peacefulness maybe that, just existing there brings to you. As I was reading through your poems, just kind of getting ready for today, I was thinking about, well, the title of your chapbook, Bena Bena, means in between, right? And the title of your full-length book, Some Things Never Leave You, suggesting that there's a trace of something, no matter where we've come from, where we are now, that always comes with us. And it strikes me too that your poems often exist in this in between place. You have a poem called Bicultural that's just about, bringing different parts of yourself into this moment where you are right now. And you weave in Arabic with the English in such a way that, the reader knows what it means, but also you're honoring what I think was your original given language, right? Arabic. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is my first language. My family moved here. We immigrated here when I was 10 years old. So, I've been here most of my life, but Arabic is my first language.
Mhm.
And my family is Palestinian Arab. My parents were refugees. So a lot of these experiences, my family history, um, inform my poetry. Obviously. That's obviously not all I write about, but it's
Yeah.
definitely a theme that themes. They are themes that I pursue in my poems. And yeah, the poem Bicultural is actually the first poem in the book. So I just kind of lay myself out right out there. Um, but I really try to look at it, and I do look at it as enriching, as having these two cultures and these two languages are very much enriching to me. They together, there's a synergy, I think, between them, and I appreciate that. And like you said, I thank you for bringing that up. I like to use Arabic words in my poems. They feel authentic to me. I mean, Arabic is part of my daily life, and so it feels like I want that to be my part of my expression, part of my expressive nature in poetry.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you sort of answered my next question, or just observation, because I know that for a lot of folks that I've talked to who do exist between worlds, cultures, identities, things like that, that of course it's really difficult, that it can be really challenging to be in that space and to know, there's a lot of code switching that can happen between those worlds and between our loved ones when we're in those worlds. But I also feel like the folks who have, kind of come through that and maybe come to a place of maturity realize, like you were saying, not only that there's this synergy between these worlds, but also that it becomes a sort of superpower, because
Hmm.
you're able to exist in that place that is such a rich place for a poet, the space of the observer, and having, like, the closeness but also a little bit of distance, so that you can really just comment on and absorb what's happening. So I don't know if any of that resonates for you, if you feel like that's your superpower now.
I love that. I love that you called it a superpower. That just resonates, because I do feel that it's just like an inside nugget that gives me, some, I guess power is not the word, but it gives me inspiration. And it is very interesting, this dynamic of being it and experiencing it, and then also sort of observing it, right? It's there, it's doing all that at the same time. There's this, it's a really interesting process.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you called it an inspiration. Like, that word feels more authentic than power, even though I know you wouldn't mean it in the traditional sense of like, gaining power over others.
Right.
But inspiration is sort of this breathing in and breathing out. It does feel, sort of more connected to the process of maybe what one is always doing when in between things, just sort of taking in, observing, fitting in, things like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Do you feel like it took you a while to recognize the kind of benefits of that, or to see it as a synergy? Or has that nugget always felt like it was there within you?
Well, it's interesting you asked that. I didn't used to feel that way. I used to always feel much more in between, and that's the title of my chapbook. Um, and in between, in a sometimes in a in a way that was fraught somehow. I didn't feel like I belonged to either world. I didn't feel like, you know, my Arabic was not as good as it should be, right? And I, I'd be in the Arab world and I'd feel very American, and then I'd be in the United States and I'd feel like, oh, this whole Arab part of me that nobody understands, that really is such a part of my existence and my understanding of the world around me. And so I think I used to feel much more of that, almost like a liability having the two. But I think as I grew older, and just with like a lot of things, as you grow older, you start
Yeah.
looking at things in a different way, and you start appreciating, and you sort of start embracing the anxieties that you might have had when you were younger, and looking for the positives in them. But for me, being Arab and American is such it really is very much a joy for me. It's a real positive thing for me. And I've really come to this space, and even though there's the politics of everything, and especially about Palestine, that's a whole other thing. But I'm proud to be Palestinian, I'm proud to be American, and I look for the intersections in a good way, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's something I admire so much about your poetry. I feel like we can all learn so much from the way that you don't turn away from the truth of the situation, or even the truth of the politics of what goes on among countries, but also you don't lose the joy
Mm.
of being bicultural, or like I think of your poem Nine Spice Mix, just inviting in all of these flavors. Like there's a sumptuousness to your work as well that comes through, especially in this brand new book and in your chapbook. And so I'm just appreciating the fact that we can be really honest and truthful and not turn away from that, but also say, oh yeah, there's so much to savor there. Even the Arabic words I feel like are just, I hearing you say them, because I don't know as well how to say them, like they're just beautiful in the mouth, and there's just that
Mhm.
flavor that comes through that is so wonderful. So I don't know if a poem comes to you to read in this moment that might bring us into that space.
Well, thank you for saying all that. I really appreciate it. I do. And since you brought up Nine Spice Mix, I think I have to read that now. I like to read, I like to write poems about food. And food has been just so pivotal in my whole upbringing, both here and overseas, but it's just all of us, food is where we derive comfort from being with each other. We share food, we celebrate with food. So as you'll see in my book, there are several poems about food. There's a funny one in the beginning about, I attended a workshop on identity and ethnicity. It was an Arab American writers workshop, and they told us, don't write about food because it just reduces your culture to just small stuff, hummus and whatever. And I so disagree with that. I feel like that is definitely not the case for me or for everyone. Um, there's a lovely Palestinian cookbook author. Her name is Reem Kassis, and she wrote a book called The Palestinian Table. And as I was reading it and, testing some recipes from it, she uses a spice mix that is very, it's very present in many of the recipes. So you have to make the spice mix and then you use it in the recipes. And so here's a quote from her book. She says, "This spice mix is featured in many of the dishes in this book, lending them a uniquely Palestinian flavor." So here's the poem, 9 Spice Mix. First they tango on my tongue, nimble couples careening, then together form an Arab-style line dance, stepping, stomping, swaying. West Indies allspice dazzles, berries tangling with cinnamon sticks, while cloves, Indonesian natives, lead with a spirited solidarity solo. Coriander seeds offer greetings in Hindi, as others toast comrades in languages beyond borders and blockades. Lifting up sisterhood, sun-wizened nutmeg starts a sibling dance with mace. Cumin demurs, then surprises with subtle exultation. Queen of spices cardamom, host of the party, gives a nod to flavors in hiding. Lemony, sweet, warm, fragrant, nutty, pungent, hot. Encouraged, feisty black peppercorns shimmy center stage, organizing the unique union of 9 for a vivacious global salute.
I love that. I'm seeing the peppercorns shimmying on stage, almost like with kicking legs, like rockets or something. So
I'm glad you have some images as you hear the words. That's great.
right. Well, I think that it illustrates what we were talking about with the joy coming through, and what better way than to imagine all of these spices dancing together, coming together, complementing each other. And I think there's something subtle going on with that poem too, that, if all of these different spices can come together and complement each other and make something, lift up a certain dish, then surely all of us can come together and our differences and intersections can all complement each other too. So I feel like there's your activist side is coming out just a little bit in that too.
Well, I'm glad you saw that because that was the
Yeah.
whole idea, is that these spices from all over the world can get together and, uplift justice, uplift.
Right.
For me, it's Palestine, but we can read it any way we want, right? But yeah, these are from all over the world, and together, we can work together and make things happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you feel like poetry is something that allows that to happen? Do you feel like that's one of the reasons that you gravitated toward that, or was it just personal expression for you, getting these things out that needed to be said? Just curious about your vision of the role of poetry in lifting up social justice, and because we always get into these discussions, or you see op-eds like poetry can't really do anything, or can poetry matter, and all this stuff. And it's like, I think we can all accept it matters, but just curious how you see it and how your relationship to it is.
Yeah, I'm actually contemplating writing an article for our local paper about, why do we write poetry? That's something like that. And, I forget that there's Ada Limon has, the current US Poet Laureate has written about this. So many others have. I've been trying to read a little bit about why poetry, you know, is it just expression? Is it sharing, you know, sentiments, sharing opinions? Is it something part of the activist space? Is it to mobilize people, you know? Um, and so I think I kind of subscribe to all of the above, to be honest with you. I think different poems have different places in my writing, and it's all good. You know, I think, you know, whatever people want poetry to be, it should be.
Yeah.
And I think that's totally fine. And so I think I do different things with my poems. I think a lot of, in terms of any kind of political poetry I do, I don't really think of it as political poetry to begin with. It's more about, I think, because I come at it from a personal point of view. I come at it as I'm talking about my family. I'm talking about my mother and father and myself and my childhood. And so it's hard for somebody to say, you know, oh, she, you know, her poetry is all about politics and whatever. It's hard for them to criticize me in a way because it's about me. You can't really take issue with my experiences and what I'm thinking and feeling. And I urge everybody else to think that way. You know, it's like, I see somebody just wrote poetry of witness, and it's true, you know. So to me, that's where I come from. That's my very basic position in writing. It's a little bit different being poet laureate because I have to write poems about things that are not part of my experience,
Mhm.
and that's much more of a challenge. And these kinds of things, you know, I try to do a lot of reading about whatever issue that I'm supposed to write about. Um, I had to write a poem for Moms Demand Action, you know, the anti-gun organization, and so we had a big rally here, and they asked me to come and read. So
Mm.
I had to write poems last year about the two documented lynchings in Alexandria. We have a terrible history of enslavement and, you know, slaves coming in on ships on the Potomac River. And that's, you know, the other part of the river that, you know, we need to also remember and face. Um, and so those are really different kinds of poems. And sometimes we're called to do that kind of thing, and we have to kind of rise to the occasion. Um, but I also, you know, this summer we had a jazz festival, and I wrote a poem about jazz vocalists. Last year I wrote about Duke Ellington.
Mm.
And actually both those poems are in the book as well.
Yeah.
So, so it can be fun. I think poetry can be fun also, you know.
Yeah. Well, I love to hear you talk about it that way because I think it's so useful for all of us to hear and to remember that, you know, poetry is not just one thing, or, you know, like, and each of us can have a lane, but we don't just have a single lane. You know, you can write about the political as it relates to Palestine and your own experience. And then in the same breath, you can write about Duke Ellington, or, you know, another breath would be, which I think this is another way of being between worlds, is you've written about aging. And, you know, like, I think you saw a headline online about you know, a celebrity kind of getting older and looking different. And it's like, you know, you can write about that too. And it is always filtered through the lens of the personal, even the occasional poems that you're talking about. And I think that's what lends poetry power, is when it has that strong intention behind it of, you know, I'm going to express what this means to me, even if I'm just learning about it, even if I'm just kind of coming to this history or this reckoning, I'm going to filter it through my own experience and really be honest and accepting of that. I feel like that's the best kind of poetry because it's not trying to like heavily educate us or like you must learn this. The approach can be much more gentle and say, you know, this is how I see it. And in a way, you're right. It's more difficult. I mean, people can argue with anything, but it is more difficult to argue with someone's personal experience. And I think in a way, it's easier also for people to find their own personal experience if you're being vulnerable and open enough to share yours too. There's something about it that opens the door to the universal for every person.
I so agree with you. And I think that, and I've said this recently in a talk that, after looking at what poetry is and what we perceive it as, between mobilizing and self-expression, etc., the final thing for me is also, it kind of gives me permission. It gives me
Mm.
permission to be in this vulnerable space. It gives me permission to be emotional and to talk about my emotions and to talk about things that really are important to me. And it's okay. And when I do that and I communicate that to you, then you kind of come on that level with me too, and you dig a little deeper. And it's I'm kind of like that in life in general.
Right, right.
But so just having my poetry be that for me is just such a nice, um, I wouldn't say catharsis, but it's a nice place to be in. And like I said, it just gives me that permission. And I love that. I love that.
Yeah. And I think what you're saying too is that poetry can be, or even just writing in general, whether you're writing an article or writing a poem, it can be a doorway also into our own authenticity, because you said, this is how I pretty much am in life. And so I feel like the poets that I love the most, they are themselves on the page and they are completely themselves in life. And there's often that kind of strange overlap. It's like, you get to know Naomi Shihab Nye a little bit more, and you're like, oh yeah, like your poems are your spirit out in the world too. And I would say the same is true for you, that it can become a way, almost like a training ground of how we want to show up in our lives and in the world.
Yeah.
That's how I think of it too.
That's a great way to say it, like a training ground. Yeah, yeah. I love that because that's how I feel too.
Mm.
That's how I feel too.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's a humbling thing we do, I think. We're adding our voices to this conversation that is so much larger than ourselves.
Yeah, and I do a reading, and there are lots of strangers in the reading, and here I am, bearing my soul to them. I'm sure everybody in this group now, and you, and have felt this way, and sometimes I get a little anxious about it, but then I realize, it's okay. This is what I want. This is where I want to be, and this is my true self that I'm sharing. So
Yeah. It is that interesting dance between, because I sense this about you, that, the attractive part of poetry might be that it comes from this deep, private, inward space, and you get to kind of sit and commune with it. And then others reading your work get to sit and commune with it. But the dance is then, if you want to share it with the world, there is a public aspect,
yeah,
which includes publication, perhaps reading out loud, or sharing it with people in person or online. And it is the anxiety of exposure, because you're taking this very personal, private part of you. And I guess I keep coming to this image of opening the door to
yeah.
other people, and you open that door to judgment and praise and reward, and reliving something that might be traumatic or difficult to
Right.
remember.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I don't know, you've seen my book, James. I write about a lot of things.
Mhm.
I know there are several poetry books that I own that have a theme, and my hat's off to poets who can write an entire poetry book on one theme. I can't seem to do that. I just have so many things that I want to write about and things that are important to me. And so that's why I have this book that's like in 3 sections. And not that they're all discrete sections, but they are a little bit more thematic within each section. And so So, I think we just have I just have a larger vision of what I want to write about, I guess. Yeah,
Mhm.
large vision. Yeah.
Well, which I also feel is more authentic, in a way, because you're not curating each poem to be in this one specific theme. We as humans are constellations or
Right.
mosaics, right? And so I often think when I'm thinking about a collection, which by the way, your collection does not feel, like it's all over the place or scattered or anything like that. It does feel very cohesive to me. But I think for me, a collection is this mosaic, and I think of it as a kind of storytelling, right? That you're putting these pieces and these moments and these stories together into a larger whole that is like a mosaic or like a quilt or something that can tell a whole story, but you kind of need to take it in little by little and then stand back and take it in all at once,
Mm.
and let it sort of marinate, for lack of a better word, within you, just to see the whole picture, because I think you have a varied experience and childhood and place that not everyone might have. And so your poems are going to reach from these very different wells, and draw that forward. And yes, Nancy Huggett is saying marinate in the 9 spice mix. Right.
That's great. I love that.
Yeah.
It's great. Mm.
Yeah. Did you have another poem that you wanted to share with us?
Um, I always like to share the poem about that the title of the book comes from. Um, it's Some Things Never Leave You, and that's a poem about my mother and about her later life, where she, grappled with all her memories and that memories that wouldn't leave her. Um, so I'll go ahead and read that one. Let me see if I can find it. Um, it's called A Refugee Grows Old. She is surprised by the pink cyclamen in the pot, examines the foreign petals, upswept as if reaching toward another space. Her own journey seems muted now, details as far away as her childhood in Palestine, where in one scenario, she would have lived in the same place until great-grandchildren played around the lemon tree that defined her family's house in scent and space. Where in the real scenario, she fled for her life with a husband and baby, in her pocket a key that rusted over the years. Her memories are like henna on a hand, splendid arabesques fading each day until gone. She has covered so many miles by boat, plane, car, on foot, measured by oceans and clouds, gas fumes, tattered flags left behind, driver's licenses, rental agreements, goodbyes to friends and family, a lifetime unanchored, cleaved. She continues to worry that somebody is plotting to take away her home, while slowly hunching over, a downswept, bent flower weighed down by hallucinations. She knows some things never leave you, so you have to leave them yourself. Takes small steps away, looking for some peace.
Hmm. Wow, that's so beautiful and heartfelt. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
that stirs up a lot for you.
It does. It does. My mother passed away in 2019, and she had dementia toward the end of her life. But I realized that so much of the way she was thinking about things really had come to her from when she was much younger. She really thought someone plotting to take away her house. She just had some of these same I guess what I really felt with her as she grew older is I looked at how the refugee experience ages with people who are older, and that was a really profound realization for me, is to watch how that is. And the ultimate thing was, and a lot of refugees feel this way, they want to be buried in their homeland, even though they've been away from it most of their lives. That's always a wish. And so she had this wish, and just like my father had this wish, to be buried in Palestine. And they are both from Nazareth, which is now in Israel. And so we had buried my father's ashes there, and then my brother and I took my mother's ashes and took them there as well and buried them next to my father's. But these are, the refugee experience, and that's not my experience, it's my family's. It just is, it has a lot of different aspects to it that people don't really understand. And certainly my family is not unique in that way. But I really wanted to bring some of that out in some of the poetry in this book.
Yeah. Well, you definitely do. And in that poem in particular, just the lemon tree, the rusting key. And I want to say too, like just the way that you read, I so appreciate, because you're highlighting the sounds that kind
Mm.
of come together to form these poems. And it just gives them an incantatory quality. So you're kind of recalling this place for us, and then placing it against the reality of the rental agreements and all this, the licenses and things that are such a stark contrast to that lemon tree, the key in the pocket. So I think it honors, and again, like this is a poem for me that exists on multiple layers, that it honors the deeply personal of your mother's specific experience, no matter who she is or where she came from, it honors her at that level. But then there are all these other layers that you're talking about, like really wanting to capture the refugee experience as much as you can of your family, and also just making it a human experience as well. Like we can all relate to that idea of expecting to be in one place and having change, having life sweep us out from that place. So again, I'm just observing that that's another place where it becomes more universal.
Thank you so much, James. You always have such beautiful insights, and you really see so much. And you put words to it. It's really helpful. It's wonderful to hear it. Um, we all, we when we read poetry, other people's poetry, we relate on different levels, like you said. So there's the personal level, there's a political level, and there's so much more. And so, yeah, so I hope this poem can reach people in different ways.
Yeah, I have no doubt that it does, and that it will continue to, and certainly that your book will too. And I wonder if I'm not being too greedy, if we could end on bicultural, since we did mention it a couple of times. It's the
Yeah,
very first poem in the book, and I really love that poem. Yeah,
absolutely. And I know you like Hugging the Tree. We could do
I
that one.
do.
We're both short.
Let's do them both. Why not?
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good.
Okay.
And before we go, can I just say one thing?
Mhm.
So the cover is based on a painting by this painter, this artist, visual artist that I love. Her name is Samar Hosseini. And I asked her if I could use the painting for my cover, and she was so gracious and generous to let me do that. And it's an abstract painting, but she has embedded Palestinian embroidery in it. So it has sort of that feeling of, it's abstract, it's memories, and it's modern, but it also has these cultural, traditional things in it. It just felt really appropriate for my book and for a lot of what I say. And she also has merchandise based on her paintings. So I have this
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so beautiful.
It's just this incredible shawl that I bought. And so I always wear it when I do my when I read from this book. So I just wanted to let you all know that how exciting it is to me to have that. I will go ahead and read. I will read Bicultural, um, and then I will read Hugging the Tree in honor of James, because you put it in one of your books, which I was so honored and so happy that you did that. Bicultural. I am a tree with grafts, the hybrid with orange and red flowers and variegated leaves, fed with morning sunlight, watered by rains that speak a different language. No one knows the secrets I carry. They have hands that meld and mold all the tales told to me by storytellers from south and north. My lines are not bold or fixed anymore, though clearer, like sanded wood. My trunk, thick and textured, sways to rhythms, reaches high. And the last poem is Hugging the Tree. And basically the backstory of it is that I wrote it during the pandemic, and we couldn't touch each other, right? We couldn't hug, we couldn't anything. It was a sad time in many ways. And I live alone, and so, that was sort of magnified for me. Hugging the Tree. It was neither part of a protest nor a statement to the world. I simply put my arms around a tall oak and stood in embrace, our bodies juxtaposed. There was no swaying. Her trunk, solid and true, felt like an ancestor, a pillar thick with years. Her bark scratched my skin if I moved, so I stayed still. It was a time to be calm and reflect on our presence together, to look up to the sky and fathom the height of my partner, to inhale the earthy scent, to arc my grateful arms around the strong matriarch and whisper into the wood my wordless secret. I have not hugged anyone for months, my dear tree.
Whispered into the wood. Oh, I love that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
I love to read poetry out loud, whether it's mine or other people's. And to me, when I'm writing a poem, I read it out loud because it helps me decide whether I like the wording and what I should change and stuff. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to read to all.
yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, it was all of our pleasure. I think I can speak for everyone in saying that. And yeah, I mean, I think that's a great little nod to everyone here and even to myself, because I notice the more that I read poetry and not just read it, but read it out loud, whether it's my own or poetry by someone else, I end up writing more poetry. I end up feeling more in touch with the music of the language. And so it was such a gift to hear you speak it today and to share so much from your book and so much from your heart. So we thank you so much, Zeina, and thanks so much for being generous with your time and your spirit.
Thank you, James. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who's here for listening, for attending, for being attentive. And for I can't see all the notes on the chat. Maybe you can send it to me later,
I
James.
will.
That'd be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
But thank you for all your comments. And thank you very much. It was really so lovely to be with you and to share with you.
Absolutely, Zeina. Well, take good care. Thanks
Yeah,
again.
you too. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
All right, everyone. So we'll take about 5 minutes and come back after 57 after the hour. And just take a deep breath, having taken in all the wisdom and the beautiful words from Zeina. So I'll see you back here at 57 after the hour.
knows you're tired, but baby, don't stop moving towards that fire. I know we ain't got long, but we are mighty warriors. Stepped up in song and I said, good morning, Tuesday. Thanks for your song, I like when I roll out of bed and it carries me along. And I wanna ask you for your lyrical touch to my newfound melody. And I said, thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I said, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And I said, thank you very much. Ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. Ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. I can hear the train tracks, love the sound go clickety clack. We don't need no hotel, stories making bodies rockin'. I wanna honor all the lessons of my father, all my life and longer. Together we are stronger, and I wanna sing all the songs taught by my mother. Be strong but still be subtle. Let your life carve out your rumble. And now, love, let me tell you, we are out to get 'em. Nobody knows what hit 'em. My songs are made to lift 'em. And I said thank you. I said thank you. I said thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. I said thank you. I said thank you. I said thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. I said thank you. I said thank you. I said thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. I said thank you. I said thank you. I said thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right, everyone, welcome back. So we'll just take a couple moments to center ourselves if you want to do a little mini meditation together. So just go ahead and close your eyes, just let them gently fall shut. And just do a little scan of your body and see if there's any tightness anywhere. Just give a little attention to any place that you feel tension in the body. The heart's racing a little faster. Just give it some gentle attention. Try to loosen any places that feel tight. There's tightness in the stomach, tightness in the throat. Just breathe in very slowly, very gently, and then breathe out. Feeling grateful for this space that you're giving yourself today. Grateful for the words of others, our own words as well. So just take a moment to breathe together, taking it nice and slow. And just slowly open your eyes, readjust, settled in your chair or wherever you are. Feel that connection with the earth, feet on the floor, back resting against pillow or chair. And as we come together again, we'll just turn to our packet for this month of poems. And I just have to say, what a beautiful reading with Zeina. I really was struck once again by the way that she enunciated the words, the way that she really was able to get in touch with the music of what she read, even her Peacefulness by the River poem about walking near the Potomac. Just really struck me, dervish, whirling, just all of these different sounds that she was able to pull together. And that, typically happen accidentally for us, maybe in the revision process, or maybe when we're just being open, just being really welcoming to the music of language itself. So maybe we can cultivate that same openness as we're writing today. And I was really struck again by her poem, Bicultural. So if we could all turn to that, and I'll go ahead and read it again, even though we got to hear her read it in her wonderful voice. I'll read this again, and then we'll work from this poem with a prompt, thinking through some of the things that she brings up. So this is Bicultural, and again from her book, Some Things Never Leave You. I am a tree with grafts, the hybrid with orange and red flowers and variegated leaves, fed with morning sunlight, watered by rains that speak a different language. No one knows the secrets I carry. They have hands that meld and mold all the stories told to me by storytellers from south and north. My lines are not bold or fixed anymore, though clearer, like sanded wood. My trunk, thick and textured, sways to rhythms, reaches high. So as Zaina mentioned, a really short, rather simple poem, but that contains so much. And so I thought that what we would do is work from this poem, and I'll offer you a couple different ways into it. So one way in that occurred to me while she was reading was just to start with that very simple first phrase, I am a tree, and see where that leads you. Um, I seem to have met a lot of people for whom trees are very special, who acknowledge them as other beings and who maybe have a tree or trees that they visit regularly. I know one member of our community, Nancy here, posts pictures of tamaracks every single day. And it's so lovely to just see the communion with these trees. So even if you don't have that special tree, maybe just starting with that phrase, I am a tree, and see where that leads you. One of the other things you might consider, starting with, or even just as you're writing, is to think about this idea of grafts, that we are all trees with parts that have been grafted on from culture, from family, from our own learning and our own life experiences. And just to explore that or be open to maybe how that shows up in the poem and how that makes us each richer, more varied, more alive. So that's just another way into it. And so I thought we would write for about 15 minutes with this one. And then what we'll do is when we come back, we'll use the raise hand feature and we'll see if some folks would like to share what they wrote. And we'll try to fit in two writing sessions today, because I know a lot of folks, myself included, really enjoy those special times that we write together. So we'll start with this poem bicultural and then write and come back together at about 2:20. So we'll go ahead and put that poem up on the screen if we can, and then write from that together, and a couple different ways to get in there. So I'll look forward to seeing what you all write. Happy writing. All right, everyone. So just take another moment to finish up whatever you're writing, and then we'll come together. All right, everybody, we'll take a deep breath and come back together. And just a reminder, if anybody would like to share, you can use the raise hand feature, which is at the bottom of the screen here, and Michelle will bring you on. If you'd like to share anything, I found this to be really rich, so I hope that you did the same. There's something really freeing about starting with something really open and simple, like I am the tree, which I actually wrote from a couple of times. So looks like a couple folks have raised their hands. We'll get to as many people as we can while still leaving some time for another session as well. So why don't we start with Nancy Huggett? Nancy's on her way.
Did I do that right? Am I
You
here?
did. You're here.
Okay.
Welcome.
Welcome. I did the I am a tree. So I went, I am a tree. Have you seen the way I grow? Quick enough for eternity to mark my bark. Rings of weathered time, drought and bounty sopped into my core. Wounds that weep and seal in summer's sticky heat, taloned down my trunk through flaps of shin-sharp bark. And still I stand reaching, always reaching down into the ground, into the richness of the soil that kins me to the world while you look up.
Oh, that's great. Kins me to the world. Oh, that's so rich. And I can tell you were really following the sounds of everything. So really beautiful job there, Nancy. And I love the idea too of, everything's happening down here while you're busy looking up, right? Like there's some magic down there that we're not always paying attention to. So thank you so much for sharing. Next up, maybe we could have Katie L. Yeah, the sounds in that were so lovely too. Just that the wounds weeping, sealing in, sticky. I love poems that bring me back to the physical world like that. Hi, Katie. It looks like you're still muted there, so I'll just have to have you mute.
Thank you. I always need that reminder.
Yeah, me too.
Good to be here.
Yeah.
The birch tree. I am a tree today, a birch, peeling white skin with black dashes, scars of beauty, nature's kintsugi, my stark imperfections visible to all. Create my beauty. As I shed myself in molt, I write letters on papyrus and tell my story. I paint pictures on canvas with the charred remains of the fire, like a tattoo inked on my chest. my arms, my trunk, my branches.
So beautiful. Someone else is pointing out nature's kintsugi as being one of their favorite lines. That was definitely one of mine. And I also, Ted Kooser, when I was working with him as a poet, he always told me that, he loved writing poems that helped people see ordinary things in completely new ways. And you've done that for me with these trees, because I never thought about the idea of wearing the imperfections on the outside, and that these trees very much do that. And so there's this shedding and peeling off that happens sort of in full view of everyone. Like it's a different level of exposure, right? Yeah. Wow. Really beautiful, Katie. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing that bit of beauty.
Namaste. Thank you.
Yeah, love you. Let's see. How about Jan Haig?
Oh, where's my? There we go.
Hi, Jan.
Hi, James. This is such a delight. Thank you so much. I've just followed all these with great interest. So thank you.
Yeah.
I did a slightly different thing. I didn't start with I am a tree, but I was thinking of a very special group of trees for me. It might be called Valley Oaks. I'm not sure. Driving across the dam road, I can see the hill where months ago, as the grass greened and the old oaks leafed into spring, I followed the path to a particular community of cousins, the Quercus lobata that rooted themselves on this slope long before I planted my own young tendrils in the soil around this lake. The heat has kept me away. The grasses turned to straw, inviting a stray spark that could race up and down these hills, charring everything. I hate to see them like that, so vulnerable, these venerables, sturdier than I imagine, though softer deep inside too, upright, sheltering friends who have taken me under their great umbrellas of kindness, without a word, the valley oaks that have always seemed to know my name.
Oh, that's so beautiful, Jan. Wow. Wow. Yeah. I love that community of cousins and just the way that you really capture the intimacy with these trees, I was kind of thinking of communing with a single tree, but I forget, and your poem reminded me so beautifully that it's often the way that these trees are interconnected and make us feel like a part of their community that brings about such power. And you feel it especially with majestic trees, but you can feel it with any tree that's in a group. And so vulnerable, these venerables, just the beauty of the language that you created, great umbrellas of kindness. So you're getting a lot of love in the chat. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I so appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Good to see you, Jan.
Good to see you.
Bye-bye now. All right. Next up, let's have Nan Rubin. And we probably won't get to everyone for this session, but we'll try to pick up people that we didn't get to in the next one. So whatever the next session ends up being. Appreciate your patience there. So welcome, Nan. I think you'll just have to turn on your video and unmute there if possible.
Where is my video? Okay, sorry about that.
Okay.
Am I on?
You're
I think
not on with
I'm in.
video,
Yeah,
but you can go ahead and read. We'll just listen. You don't have to be on video.
yeah, I don't look so good today anyway, so that's okay. Okay. I've become the olive tree I commune with each morning. I am bursting with myriad of bird sounds in cool air, a bustling city of wren, finch, hummingbird, occasional visit of hawk roadrunner with harsher clicks and screech. My leaves rest in the dark before dawn, kissed awake second by rays of rising sun. I am home of nests, a refuge, place to meet, for partners to meet, start a family. I hide secrets in the folds of my branches, Bible, or simply to rest. I am the therapist, seasoned by years of being woven into the lives of others, darkest with their darkest secrets, enveloped in confidentiality. What cannot be said to another, even those closest, the spouse, child, lover, friend, out of shame or instinct to protect those souls, or simply not knowing the full story yet that is revealed to themselves. I am the olive tree, full and teeming with life, thick and hiding to obscure from predator, imagined or real. And I am unique. I have endured without producing a single olive, just profuse shedding of leaves, as if to clear the way for visitors and new growth.
Mm. We can see you now, Nan. So it's good to see you. Somehow it just happened. I think it was the magic of your poem. But I love that, you know, and it really went in a different direction when you were kind of talking about the therapist and the tree being the bearer of these secrets. That was really unexpected because, you know, I love where it began with housing all this, the varied wildlife, and you really delighted in, it seemed, you know, naming all of these different animals and how it would shelter those beings. But then it just became something larger. So I really appreciated the direction that you just kind of allowed it to go in.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing
Thank
it
you.
with us.
Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah. Next up, let's have Pat Gott, and that'll probably be our last one for this session. I'm sorry, guys. And then we will move into the next writing session as well. So next up is Pat Gott. Yeah, and important to point out that that one was from the perspective of the tree, you know, just kind of really opening that up into a kind of persona poem. Hi, Pat. Good to see
Hi.
you.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, hi. Nice to be back. Oh, hello. Weird. Let me. Yeah, this is strange. I haven't done this in a while. But okay, it's like teaching. Can I just put mine in the chat and then read it too? Because it's
Yeah.
easy for me to read it. Thanks.
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, James.
Yeah.
So let's see if I can get the chat back up. Otherwise, I can minimize the window too. But okay, so everyone, I need to do it. And then part of it is in the chat. Let's see. But then I'll read the little part that I didn't get in there, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So, and just a little background. I'm writing on the south shore of Lake Superior, which is the Wisconsin shore. And then I was born in Superior, Wisconsin, if that clarifies things, which was actually the home of the largest chair factory in all of Wisconsin, all of the United States. And I'm not sure when exactly that it stopped being that, but it was the Webster Chair Factory. At some point, it wasn't the largest chair factory when the timber was all cut down in northern Wisconsin. But anyway, all right, Treeborn. I was born in Superior on the Big Lake, named the same, near some of the world's deepest woods, a bit of old growth still left in the north. Chairs from the world's largest chair factory stare at me, my favorite with its north wind face blowing back at me from the oaken back, another remnant of Superior's past, my hometown when it wasn't a Rust Belt city next to Duluth. I write on yellow foolscap, unfurling towards you. We love our paper that writes our future, freshly spackles our past. May I never live where trees or water, birches or beech nuts cannot exist. May I always read their palms to help me pass to the next world. I
Hmm.
won't read the rest of it because it just diverts into another direction, but that's what I have for today. Thank you
It's
for listening.
funny. Yeah, that's such a beautiful ending to it too.
Thanks.
You know, that idea of passing to the next world, and you know that it opens up at the end into this sort of blessing or this sort of prayer. So just really appreciating that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mm.
Thanks for everybody too. And it's so great to be back. I missed you all last week. So thanks.
Good to have you back. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, I think we'll go ahead and go into the next writing session here. And so we'll turn back to our poems and prompts. And I think that I'll go ahead and read my poem that I shared this week and offer you a little prompt for that, because it's just feels very resonant with the summer moment that we're in right now. And I always say that I love sharing my poems, writing them in the spirit of allowing them to be prompts for other people. So this is my poem, Here with You. It's too hot on this August afternoon to move from our places on the couch, even to slice the peach still waiting on the counter for the kiss of the knife. A different kind of hunger keeps me here with you, rubbing the fine hairs on your arms that have turned blonde after all those hours in the sun, and which are just now catching the light, spinning it into gold I want to touch over and over, never once having dreamed I'd ever be this rich. So just a little bit of brief context about this poem. I actually wrote it last summer when my husband and I had COVID. So it was in the aftermath of that. We both luckily recovered fully, although Brad had a lot of long COVID symptoms and went through a lot of tests and a lot of unpleasant symptoms and effects from that. So finally everything had calmed down from that. And it was one of these moments where everything just feels complete. You know, there's this moment of completeness in the world, in your personal world. And so I was sitting on the couch. It was one of those sultry August afternoons, and we weren't doing much. And I was just doing this kind of sensory scan of, you know, the house, the room, what I was doing. And it just, like, all of these elements came together. Like I just wanted to describe all of those elements. So I'll kind of funnel that into a prompt for each of you. And I would say maybe just describe an otherwise ordinary moment when you felt rich beyond all reckoning, when this sense of contentment or completeness fell over you, even though nothing special had happened. And if you feel stuck, you might start with the line, a different kind of hunger keeps me here, and see what that open door lets in. You might also begin with doing, again, what I kind of call like a sensory scan or an environmental scan of the room you're in, and just see what calls to your attention. See what feels sensual, what feels very tangible to you right now, and see if you can kind of access that moment of gratitude that, you know, you're here now and you're exactly where you're supposed to be. So I think for this one, we'll take about 10 minutes. So we'll come back at about 48, 49 after the hour, and hopefully have the chance to hear from a few other folks who can share whatever they wrote from this one. So we'll put that up on the screen, and then I'll just say happy writing to all of you. And we'll see you in about 10 minutes at 49 after the hour. Right, everyone. So just come slowly out of the writing process. Take another moment to finish up whatever you're doing. We'll come back together. And again, remember to raise your hands, and we'll fit in as many people as we can just to hear what you came up with so far, anyway, from this prompt. All right, everyone, let's come together again. And it looks like we have some raised hands here. So why don't we start with Carol? I think you had your hand raised before, Carol. And again, we'll fit as many people in as we can. Oh, there's Carol. We'll just have you put on your video and go ahead and unmute yourself as well.
Thank you so much, Heidi. And thank you, Michelle. You are doing an amazing job. Now seeing what you need to do behind the scenes, I'm even more impressed. And everything has been so wonderful. I liked what I wrote about the tree, but I think I'll read what I wrote for the second one and scribbled it onto the screen. Here, right now, here on the couch with legs folded under, the feeling long since melting into a vague sensation of pins and needles and warm fabric. Here, right now, double windows across the room, seeing trees sway in the breeze, hearing leaves that whisper, here we are for when you're through. Here, right now, keyboard clicking fast away, as words pour out in moments soon to end and give themselves away to what comes next when we are through. Here, right now, the leaves beckon, the trees sing, the blue sky hides behind the clouds. They call me to come out and see and hear and feel with them again.
Love that so much. Oh, so much to comment on. We don't have time for all of it, but just know that was so beautiful. I love that idea of the giving away, like the trees, that you were making that connection between the words that are coming out, the moments that are ending, and the leaves that you were seeing through those. I love double windows. There's just something about that sounds really lovely. So thank you so much, Carol.
Thank you. It's group inspiration because I love that the tree came back.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Well, we're always co-creating this space. So thanks to everyone. I think we're all writing together, like in a way we can't entirely take credit for what each of us is creating. So thanks, Carol.
Thank you.
Bye-bye now. And I think next up we'll have Wandal Wilson. And I really do mean that. I'm sure Carol meant it too, that we are always co-creating. And there is something, as I often say, something really special about the whole group writing together, writing from these common poems or prompts, even if we each go in our own ways, which is completely acceptable and encouraged. There's still that energy that kind of buoys us all up and allows us to write things that maybe we wouldn't write before and go in new directions. So thank you so much to everyone. Next up is Wandal Wilson.
Here we go.
There you are.
Okay, I'm from Alaska. So, and this is collecting arnica. This is what happened last Friday. It's 52 degrees and I'm 30 miles away from anywhere, walking alone in bear country. No one near but the flower people I came for. The wild arnica, bright yellow, and I are both soaked in fog as I collect and rest near the fields of deadly monkshood, shining in their purple aconite. I pace my steps and look up past the white sky to the green of ever so tall Alaska mountains, knowing it's time and not wanting to go. My gratitude spoken out loud. Suddenly, a bull moose races across my path. I rush back to the car before the bear follows him, astounded at the mighty gifts of this day.
Wow. You could have kept going. You have my attention.
I know, thank you. I was up at 2 a.m. writing the bicultural thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I love your Alaska poems. I mean, just that, that fog-drenched meadow, if that's what you would call it, and how you mentioned the flower people, just seeing things that are so different from where I live, in Vermont on the other side of the country, in a very different place.
We're having a cold summer.
Rainy here, so it's very atypical as well. But thank you so much for sharing that. You have such a way of bringing us into the moment. So thank you, Wendell.
Thank you. I love this. Thank you.
Me too. Thank you. All right. Next up, let's have Sean. Hi, Sean.
Hi, James. It's wonderful to see you and wonderful to hear all these beautiful poems. I kind of combined two inspirations. I really loved Zeina's Hugging the Tree poem. So I kind of launched from there as well with the other prompt.
Awesome.
I wish I could hug her now. When my favorite tree succumbed to the storm, her trunk split, her canopy broken as she fell toward my home. How fortunate I felt. Not only that she laid herself down with such care to spare me from a caved-in roof or a crashing through the window to where all my poems slept behind their glass blanket, but also how rich I was to have spent a season ago day swimming in her shade, when I once was feeling all alone and lost. Until barefoot, I let my toes linger in the coolness of the grass beneath her skirt. And looking up into her light, I felt the embrace of her branches, her leafy sleeved arms dancing in the breeze, a few of them sweeping so low, almost touching me like a barely there kiss. Her whisper, I'm here, watching over you. It was all I ever needed.
Wow, Sean, thank you so much for that. Yeah, I feel a deep breath after that poem. I want to point out too, the seamless way you brought us from sort of the present, the trees succumbing to the storm, and then the way you brought us into that past moment. Like it just felt like suddenly we were just there barefoot with you. So just a compliment on that and a nod to that. Really beautiful poem. And Sean is the publisher that I mentioned of Poetry Box, which put out Zeina's chapbook. And so very special to have you here, Sean. Thank you.
Thank you, James.
All right, so I think we have time for just one more. We'll just push it a little past since we started a little bit later. And I would love to hear from all of you, of course, but we'll go with Jeannie Harsha. And again, sorry that we can't get to all of you. It always makes me sad because I want to hear what everyone did. Welcome, Jeannie.
Hi there. Hi, thanks. Nice to be here. My first time. And
Yeah.
I've really loved everything I've heard. So
Good.
thank you. Okay. Early morn, the mutual warmth from the cat in my lap, gazing into each other's eyes with some cross-cultural understanding, turning to observe the outdoor scene from our comfortable seat by the big picture windows, the white birch, the gray ash, a breeze lifting their leaves in a delicate dance. Their branches a freeway for squirrels and nuthatches, a perch for cardinals and chickadees. I am rich beyond words, filled up full with morning moments. My cat, the trees, birds, and squirrels. And to top it all off, my husband brings me a cup of coffee.
A very good husband there.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. The morning moments. And I was just noticing and appreciating the very simple, but, very profound sounds, the cat, the branch, that you were really hitting the music of the language as you were inviting us into that scene. And I feel filled up full too from your poem and from everyone else's. So thank you so much for sharing, Jeannie. It was
Thank
lovely to
you.
have you here and to meet you for the first time.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Good to be
absolutely.
here.
Yeah. Well, sending love to everyone. Thank you so much for such a full day. Just a reminder that if you choose to join, if Facebook is something you do, we do run a private Facebook group where you can safely share your poems without having to worry that they're already published. So it's just a place for us to share with each other what we wrote in its more raw form and give each other encouragement, suggest places to publish, all of that. So just another advantage there. You're always welcome to copy and paste in the chat. But more than anything, just want to give another thank you to Zeina and a thank you to all of you for being so vulnerable and just showing up with your whole selves. I am not even exaggerating when I say that I feel so full and inspired every single month. So I look forward to these times and looking forward to seeing you again next month in September. So take good care, everyone. Thank you so much for bringing your whole selves. And I will see you all again soon and look forward to hearing more of your work. Bye-bye now.